Okay, and we are live. I'd like to say welcome to everyone. Welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart with Bree. And my guest today is Patricia Panton, who is my cousin. Patricia, would you introduce yourself to the audience?
Hello, audience. Good afternoon.
I have been asking Pat to be a guest on my podcast for a while, and she said she would do it today, and I'm so thankful. We've had
Yeah.
some technical problems, but we're trying to do this anyway. So if there are any echoes or anything, please bear with us, and let's get right into it. Pat, give a little background on yourself.
Ooh, little background. Well, I am how can I say, middle-aged woman. I'm a qualified teacher of history. And now I'm actually teaching primary school children English and maths.
Oh, wow.
I'm doing GCSE with a youngster who's taking his exams next week.
Okay.
I don't know how I managed to do physics with him, because physics is since I was in secondary school, but I've done it. And I'm just trying to figure out what's my next thing in life. What do I really want to do? I love to
Yeah.
sing. So, yeah. And I accomplished the teaching
Yes.
to a master's degree. So I'm very happy with that. As a woman, I believe that we should have some kind of qualification because we've all been to school. I'm very hard on that, and I'm
Yes.
telling youngsters I meet as women, men are okay, but they will know what to do. But as a woman,
That's true.
have to be
That is so true, Pat, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I definitely want you to come back on another episode to talk about your singing career, because I heard you sing for the first time at my father's funeral, and you just blew me away. And I'm so thankful that you'll be singing today. But I mentioned a poem to you earlier that I found on Facebook the other day, and I found this on the Grief Yoga group, and it says, "I'm thinking of all the mothers this weekend, to those whose child has died, to those whose mother has died,
Yeah.
to those whose mother is alive, to those who had a good relationship with their mom, to those who had a challenging relationship with their mom, to the women who had miscarriages, to the women who want to have children but can't, to those who are doing it on their own, having to overcome divorce, and to all the others, to all the other ways loss shows on Mother's Day." And I would like to say to all of those out there today, if you've lost your mom, you've lost a child, you're still a mom. You're still the child of your parent who's no longer here. And I would like us to celebrate memories today. And Pat, I would like you to talk about your mom.
So, okay. Oh, where do I begin to speak about my mother? I've never met anybody that had such a strong personality as my mum. I remember growing up, I used to say to my brothers and sisters, and we had foster sisters as well, "Mommy is an alien. She's not from here." And they used to say, "Where?" And I said, "She comes from the sky. She's not one of us, but we're going to be good for her. Do everything she says. And then she'll let us play and she won't be strict." And sometime afterwards, my mother told me, she said, "I know what you've been telling those children." She says, "I know what you said to them." You said I'm not from the earth. And I says, I didn't say that. She says, you said, I'm not from here. Don't tell them that again. But how did I know to do that? How? And she had a rare blood to us. She hasn't got the same blood. And through my research and everything, it's what you'd call, because we're going into a scientific world now, I can actually say she's like Anunnaki.
Okay.
But then she was a Maroon, she was an
Yes.
African, she was a Jamaican. And I think coping with the Englishness, living in Britain, she had to fit that in as a woman.
Yes.
I remember when I was about 5, Mommy used to say to me, we're going out this evening. I want you to come somewhere with me. And I says, okay. She says, eat up your dinner. And she used to give me more food than the others. And there was also, Bridget, a secret smile. She would look at me and give me the smile. And I used to say, I'm helping Mommy. And we used to walk up Grove Lane in Handsworth. And we used to go in people's houses. At the time, I didn't know that she was viewing. She had an appointment to view houses. She was looking for a house for us. And she used to cry along the way. And it made me very upset. And when we got into the houses, she'd cry again. And they would give me long glasses of Ribena to drink. And they would give us something like brandy. At the time, I didn't know that she was a woman trying to do a motherly and woman thing. She left my dad at home with the other children, and she took over the role of staying in the house for us to live. But in those days in Britain, they didn't give the female a mortgage. That's why she was crying.
Oh.
That's why she was crying. And she didn't tell me these things till I was a 20-odd-year-old. And I used to tell her what I remember. And she says, you remember that? I said, yeah, you used to cry. She said, Pat, I was so upset. I was praying that we would, all of a sudden, women could get mortgage. But it just tells you the role of a woman and a mother. That's what it says to me.
Yes.
It's not easy, but it's okay if I say it's not easy. You then have to go down into why isn't it easy?
Yes.
When we go down into it and we can't get things, trust me, we have to go back to our childhood. How did you get something when you were a child? How did you get your mother or your father to believe you and say, you do need this thing?
Yes.
Then when you grow up, that stays with you because it's your tool to get. And now I'm the age I am, I'm saying, is there much more for me to learn? And there probably is. Much more than I could probably handle. Because look at the trouble we've had today getting online.
Yes.
And we're here now. So if I didn't leave my apartment to come out to find Wi-Fi and to come into this room, where would we be? We'd say, oh, we'd have to leave it till another time.
Yes.
Or we'll have to arrange something. But no, you don't do that. As a woman, you keep pushing. Let me try this. Let me try that. This is connected to that. Let me do it.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and I'm coming across young girls in school, year 9, they're about probably going up to 14, that don't want to learn. And I have to explain, I says, I'm not going to force you to learn. But one day you remember that Patricia sat here with you and helping you to spell and to remember and
Yes.
still be a beautiful young lady. It's been taking me weeks now to get one child to do that. Thursday night, she did it. And she started to dance all over her front room. She called her mom, Mom, I've done a full test with Patricia, and Mom, I got you all right. And I thought to myself, watching her dance in front of me, yes, you did get them right. And I'm going to make it so much harder for you.
Yes.
I'm going to that's what I do. I've got to keep on that straight and narrow. I've got to
Yes.
put it inside her that she must learn. Never stop. So that's
That
where I
is
am.
so important. That is so important. And our mothers, being Maroons and living in England back in those days, life wasn't easy.
No, it
And
wasn't.
it honestly, I think back to those days quite often, Pat. And back then, I'm so thankful that our parents made sure that we were in each other's lives. You
Yes.
know, back then, family was family. We saw each other on a regular basis. And to know that I hadn't seen you in so many years, but the connection was always there. It was still there because of
Yes.
the because of the established relationships we had when we were children.
Yes.
I never forgot your mom, and I remember spending a few days with you guys when I was a girl. And it stays with me because I think it's only been twice where I spent the night anywhere without my siblings. I
Mm.
remember you and Kenneth taking me ice skating. I don't know if you remember that, but I remember that. We're
Yes.
talking about what, about 50 years ago?
Oh my
And
goodness.
that that is something that's one of my treasured memories.
Mhm.
What you were saying about your mom. Back then, women really didn't have rights. You
No.
know, they honestly, when my parents figured that they would be separating, I remember my mom my mom found out that my dad had planned to get custody of us behind her back. And back then, men
Okay.
could do that. That's why we left England. That's why we left England.
So
And,
basically, she ran away then.
yeah, right. My
Yeah.
mom did what she had to do because she
Yeah.
figured no one's taking my children away from me.
Yeah.
My mom was in her early 30s. And for her to take 4 children, leave England to go to Jamaica and start all over, that was not easy. It was not easy. And I've always looked up to my mother for that reason, because it took a lot of strength to do what she did. Did she still love my dad? I believe she did, but she did what she knew was right for herself and right for her children. And back then, women were not getting divorced. Back then, women were sticking it out and taking the abuse and taking whatever. So I've always looked up to my mom for that very reason, for showing strength, because it encouraged me later in life when I had to make the decision to get a divorce.
Mhm.
It played a role in my life. You know, um, I mentioned earlier to you about Aunt Gratis.
Yeah.
When you think of Aunt Gratis, I want you to share with me what comes to mind. Aunt Gratis is like one of my all-time favorite people ever. Yeah.
She was. She was again. She was a different kind of woman. She
Yes.
used to stay with us on Tuesday night. So every Tuesday night, we would have a Nancy stories. We were
Oh,
children that went to bed with a story,
yes.
and she would fall asleep telling the story. And I used to sleep next to my auntie. because I was her favorite. So I
Yes.
slept next to her. And I remember I used to dig her, wake up, finish the story. And she used to finish the story, but it was in gibberish. And then the following morning, while we're getting dressed for school, she'd finish the story. But when you say Aunt Gratty, she was our second mother.
Yes.
She came to England when I was 3 months old, and she came to look after me, actually,
Okay.
because she's one of these people, and the family were saying in Jamaica, Daryl can't manage. Daryl just have
Yes.
Daryl can't manage. So I go. So she came over. That's how I. That's how I bonded with her. Um, if I had a problem, I would tell her,
Yes.
and she'd answer me. And I remember she used to say to me, "You must try and save money because I'm not very good with money. I spend it. I buy what I have to buy, furniture, anything at all, but it's gone." She said, "You must save some money." And I said,
Yes.
"No, I'm not going to save no money. I'm going to find a man to look after me. I will have a husband. Why are you worrying about me like that? I will have a husband to take care of me." And she stared at me one day and she says, "No, Pat, no." And I was only thinking a couple of weeks ago, what does she mean by that?
Yeah.
Because we come from this maroon people. They're telepathic. They know things. They live their life correctly, so the waves and life can be revealed to them, if you like. And that's
Yes.
what she did to me. So I began to save, but it didn't last long.
Yeah.
Um, I think I'm more chase after education. My prayer to God every day as a child, let me be an educated woman. Let me be able to talk and know what I'm talking about. And I used to pray that every day. I didn't used to say the Lord's Prayer because I didn't understand it. I
Yes.
prayed my own prayer. And my auntie used to say, "You have to say the Lord's Prayer, you know?" And I'm thinking, those people have come into our lives and now they're not there. And I'm holding on to whatever they taught me, whatever they said to me. I'm trying to remember different stages in my life where that was good when mommy said that to me. That was good when
Yes.
dad.
Yes.
My father had a radio, and my dad was a quiet man.
Yes.
He was so quiet. I used to pray for a quiet man that God would send me a quiet man.
Wow.
All right. It wasn't until I lived 27 years with a quiet man that I found out it's not a quiet man. They have a mind that runs deeper than deep. You don't know what they're thinking. That's
Yeah.
why they're quiet. They're doing other things. That's why they're quiet.
Yeah.
They have to be inconspicuous. That's why they're quiet. And I said to God, "Thank you for letting me know that now. It seems I've lost everything." But then a thought said to me, "You haven't lost everything. You've
True.
got your degrees. You've got life. You have new friends. You haven't lost anything. You just went through a phase of life.
Yes.
You dealt with it. And you're on the other side and you're stable. You will know when you're not stable.
Yes, it's true.
You're the first, if an individual is not well or you feel you want to cry a lot, you're the first person to know that.
It's true.
And if you don't arrest it and say, "I want to stop crying. All right, I had the children. I don't hear from them anymore. All right, that man's gone. And if you said to the man, go, and he goes, he maybe was waiting for you to say that, but at
Yeah.
least you say it.
Yes.
Because men are very, I'm not going to say strange, they're very clever. It takes me back to when Genesis, when God came in the garden and he says, Adam, where are you?
Yes.
And Adam says, I heard you coming, so I hid. So God realized, oh, you've eaten from the tree, then you can't see me anymore. You hid. Well, it's you cause it, you know, God, because the woman.
Yes. The woman that you gave me, right?
So what men do,
Yeah.
and I'm going to generalize here because I've researched it so many times. They love to blame.
It's true. That's been my experience.
They love to blame because it's easy. They're not taking all the blame, but they love to blame you. Come in this boat with me. The two of us was in this thing. You're to blame as well. But what it also says to me that Adam didn't like Eve. He was in a cave hiding. It wasn't just God he was hiding from. He was hiding from her. We don't know because the Bible don't really tell us. But my heart
Right.
said he didn't like her. She was big-headed. Told him what to do, and he didn't like it. So he went his way in the garden. And that is what basically I said, you know what? No. You don't sit and grieve over what has happened. You get up now, dust off your clothes. When toddlers are learning to walk and they drop on their bottoms, you'll hear some of the, oh, and the parents will say, oh, you fell. But what does that baby do? Jumps up straight away,
It's
puts his
true.
little hands on the floor and pushes the bottom up into the air and stands up straight. Doesn't a baby do that?
Yes.
That was a lesson for us. You drop down, you get up, you carry on walking, you make things better. You might even end up even better than you was before.
Yes.
But
It's true.
you might have learned something. So as
It's
a
true.
woman, I'm telling you, Bridget, I'm not joking. As a woman, you see what's in my head? Only I know what's in my head. Only I. I'm not going to say to myself, I need a man, No,
Wow.
we all need love. And there is a man. If he's out there, he's looking for you. He'll find you. Be like a little bird in the tree that builds his nest and then goes and sing a song on the branch. And then a female comes. If she doesn't like the way he made the nest, she'll fly off.
Yeah.
There are birds that do that. It's not just female birds make nests, men do.
Yeah.
Male birds make nests. And they sing a song and they fluff up their feathers and they do a dance. There's a man that will do that. But my thing is, while that is happening, I believe a woman should have her education that she comes out of school with, her education that she's interested in, that she's chased herself, and put them down, or you find a job that goes with that education, and you certify yourself, you fortify yourself so that if a rainy day comes,
You're
you
ready.
go out into your little box or your case or wherever you keep your qualifications and said, oh, I did hairdressing, but I never did hairdressing.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can try now, if I can spruce it up a bit. Oh, I used to be a teaching assistant. Oh, let me see if school needs anybody to read. And believe me, there's a purpose for all of us. Sometimes I
Yes.
wonder what the purpose is, but I'll know soon enough. I
Yes.
don't think many of us know our purpose.
And that that is so true. My friend Joan is saying this is an early life, sis, but happy to join. Well, Joan, because my cousin Pat is in England, that's why I did it early today because of the time difference. And I'm so thankful that Pat has joined us today. And you know, Pat, I think of the lessons I have learned,
Yeah.
and I think of the mistakes I made because I didn't listen. You know,
Mm.
I got solid advice from my mom and my aunts, my grandmother. And I think back to lessons I learned from Aunt Gratis, even as a child, and all my other aunts.
Mhm.
But why Aunt Gratis comes to mind? As I ask myself this. I'm almost 60 years old. I've not seen Aunt Gratis since I was like maybe 9 years old. Pat, I can tell you right now, I can describe Aunt Gratis's room. You
Mhm.
walk through the door, the bed would be over. There was a bed over to the wall to the right. There was another bed over to the other wall. And then she had a little dining room table. I think it was by a window. And then she had like a little record player. I remember Aunt Gratis's room like I'm in there now. I remember the railroad track that was behind her house, you know? I remember that. And I asked myself, why do I remember so much about Aunt Gratis? Because, Aunt Gratis, she didn't spoil children, but she was so loving. I could ask Aunt Gratis a million questions a day. She would answer. She was never like, go away, you're getting on my nerves, you're asking too many questions. And, I'm thinking back to it was four of us, and we would be with her for days at a time. We never cried to go home to our parents. We were always happy with her. And I'm thinking, like in today's world, you don't find family doing stuff like that anymore. And
So
I'm
true. Yeah.
and I'm thinking like, I want people out there to stop and think. You don't know the difference you're making in a child's life. You don't know your actions in the future. How you treat a child now will affect them later on in life. If you show that child love, it's going to come back later in life. But if you are unkind to them, you are scarring them for life. And that's something I saw in my dad. He was a very hurt and damaged individual from childhood experiences. And I just think back to like how he loved Aunt Gratis. My dad loved your mom. There were people in the family that I know that they had a different type of relationship with my father than other people. And I think when you're a genuine, loving, and kind person, you make such a difference in the lives of other people. And like I said, Aunt Gratis, I'm just about 60 years old. Why do I remember her the way that I do? You
Yeah.
know? It was just that love and genuine care that she had for all of us, for you and your family, for all of us. I'm thinking those were little twin beds in her room. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking of all of us sleeping together on those little twin beds. Who does that today? Who does that? So I want you, Pat, to just talk about, and you've gone into it somewhat, your mom, Aunt Gratis, and the other women of the family. How did they shape you into the woman that you are today with the mindset that you have today? Because even with obstacles and all of that, you've decided, you know what, I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet. I'll be educated and I'm going to take care of myself. Young ladies today need to hear that message.
Well, I think when I look back, my grandmother, my mother's mom,
Hmm.
I don't know if you ever met Miss Cassie.
I don't think so.
Oh, well, she was your grandmother's sister. My
Okay.
grandmother, when I first saw her, I was 17.
Okay.
I've never seen somebody so black in all my life. She was, I remember how I was looking at her, and she knew how I was looking at her. She had a long face, a long neck, a straight nose, and her eyes were slanted, and her skin was jet black. And I said, this is my grandma. And I looked at my mother and I thought, you look nothing like your mother. But when I went back to Jamaica again in 94, I sat and I talked with my grandmother. And she told me snippets of her life from right up from childhood. And she said, you know, all I ever wanted was a veranda on my house.
Wow.
So I said, well, I called the man's name because my uncle's his father. And I said, didn't he give you a veranda? She said, he did promise me. And I said, but he didn't give you. And Granny, all you talk about is him. I really
Wow.
don't want to, I said, I really don't want to speak about this man today. And she says, you don't like him? I said, I didn't say I didn't like him. I don't want to speak about him today. He wasn't good for you. I don't know why you love him. And he's dead anyway. But I leave that memory with you. And when I came back to England, I started to say to myself, I could have given my grandma a trip. I could have sent money out there frequently for her to put on a veranda. And then what came back to me, Pat, your mind wasn't at that point.
Yes.
And I don't blame you for that. But it's nice you're thinking about it now. So I'm thinking I could have made her life better as a grandchild that cared about her. But, you know, living in Britain, it's not as easy as you think, you know, whether you're born here or not.
Right. No, I know.
Making ends meet is a true saying.
Yes.
So my grandma was a strong person in my mind, to be determined, do things yourself. My aunt, who we also call grandma, take everyone as you find them, but still be yourself.
Yes.
If I said my mother, and she was my mother, I would have to have the forward control.
Yes.
And I mean it truly. My mother could control you by just telling you what next week will bring, or what will happen to you, or if she wanted anything from you, she would make you a queen or a king, and then you'd give her what she wanted.
Yes.
But that was the only way she knew to survive. When I got my first job, my mother had all my wages
Yeah.
because I used her account. That's how she was able to dip into my money.
Yeah.
And then I told my auntie, and auntie said, no, no, no. And she took me to Halifax and gave me my own account.
Yes.
And then when the end of the month came, I was cleaning the house, and Mommy said, Pat, you know that money didn't go in my account this month. And she spoke it so kindly, and I says, no, Mommy, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. I've got my own account now. And I never forget the look on her face. Never, ever. But I knew then what I was doing. I was subtly telling you I cannot be controlled that way.
Exactly. You were your own woman.
But you can be your own woman and don't know.
It's true. It's
It's the
true.
way you think. It's the way you think, you see. It's the way you think,
It's
what you
true.
say. And What else? Probably how you eat. You know how I value most men? Or look at them and say, I'm gonna do some research on you, lot, because men can tell you who you are by the way you look, by the way you speak, by the way you say hello, by the way you greet him. Hello,
Yes.
John. You could even say you look so handsome today. Oh, I love your shoes. A man could tell who you are.
Yes.
You understand me? That's a man.
Yes.
I'm not
Yes.
talking about the men that think they can use you. But
No,
today,
no, no,
today's not about men per se, but I'm
no.
telling you about your companion, fellowship, love, understanding. And I keep coming back to the woman. I don't know why. I'm not a feminist, by the way.
To be honest with you, I've considered myself to be a feminist because as life has gone on, I'm definitely pro woman. And it's the hard knocks of life that have given me this mindset.
It could be that some people could take it a different way. You're pro woman or women together. But I've been told that you're speaking like a feminist, Patricia. I don't care how it sounds, really. I'm just saying what I have to say.
You
Um,
have to. You have
yeah,
to.
I've met too many children when I was in school. If I went to training day at school or I was sick a day and I went back the next day, where were you? You didn't tell us you weren't coming to school. Met the boys and the girls. So I realized that if they're going to talk to me like that and tell me what they expect from me, I am going to use my subject to teach and tell them how I expect them to behave. Henry VIII was a good one for me to use. Anne Boleyn
Yes.
was another.
Yes.
And I don't know if I've told you, by the way, Bolsover Castle in Sheffield.
Hmm.
Our family from Portland was there.
Oh, wow.
The place.
I didn't know that.
Yes, yes, I researched it. Yeah,
That
that's
th-
right.
that I did not know. And Pat, I don't want to. I have to bring this up because we're talking about the women in our family, women in general. My grandmother, Miss Nellie, I honestly did not like her.
You did?
No, I didn't like her.
But
I
hold
saw
on.
her. I saw her as unkind. She was
Oh,
a woman that she was. I look back now as a woman, and I can tell you that I look back and I can tell that she was hurt. She was a woman that was hurt, and I always saw, but there was a bitterness there. She was hurt because she missed my dad. She talked about him all the time. And what she would say is that she believed that we had done something to him and we were lying about him. And it was like, because if he was alive, he would have come to Jamaica to see her. And because he was not a big part of her life, she blamed us. And I'm like, why would you say something like that to a child? So I didn't gravitate towards her. Felt no connection towards her. And I look back now at the age that I am, because my other grandmother, my mom's mom, I would talk to her about how I felt. She would tell me, forgive her. She doesn't mean any harm. And, find a way but I could not like her, I remember her asking me, Bridget, when you come around here, you don't say good morning to me. You don't say anything to me. And I just would not say anything to her. And I remember the last time I saw her, I walked right by her like I didn't know who she was. And anyone that knows me, they know I'm not that kind of person. But it was the hurt of the unkind things that was said to us. And I'm saying this, for the viewers out there to stop and think about The power of words. You know, the
The
power
power
of words.
and your heart, because
Yes.
you picked up that she was angry.
Yes.
She probably wouldn't blame you. She probably blamed your mum, but she couldn't say things
She
back.
what she did, she actually said she said a lot of unkind things about my mom.
So it's a hurt. It's a
It's
hurt
a hurt.
all around, and nobody can explain. But in
Right.
probably actions speak louder than words, and they still do.
Yes.
Um, and when you're the favorite child and you've left family back in Jamaica and you don't go back, they will say, well, what did I do? And they will begin to hate you because they think you hate them.
Yes.
But it's life and circumstances. People become victims of the circumstances.
True.
They don't hate anybody. It's just that they haven't got the time to go to the
It's
post office
true.
to send their money. They haven't got time to sit down and read a letter and answer that letter back.
It's true.
Time, time, because the family that Miss Nelly came from, that no hate would be allowed there. But
Right.
we develop
Yes.
things. We become different people.
Yes.
We do.
I definitely agree with that. And, you know, I wish, and back then people didn't really talk about feelings. They didn't talk about, you
No,
know, well, I'm hurting. No one knew about therapy or anything like that back then. And
I don't think people talk about feelings now.
yeah, and I think suppressed feelings, I think they do a lot of harm. Like there's the saying that hurting people hurt other people. And I think as
No.
women, you know, because I think back, like I think of both my parents.
Mm,
I know my dad loved me in his own way, and as I know my mom has loved me in her own way. When I think of my mom, I think of nurturing and kindness and love, you know? When I think of my dad, I don't necessarily think of those words. And I'm not saying that to be mean, but I've always associated that with motherhood. And I know it should come from both parents.
mm,
And that's another point I wanted to make, you know, to everyone out there. You know, we have to stop and think about the things that we say and the
yeah.
things that we do, how we
Yes,
treat our children, our grandchildren, because we're setting them up for the future. I could have become a very angry and bitter woman too, but like my mom is the type of woman that my mom had every right to be angry and bitter towards my dad. And I think back to like when my mom called me, it was about a month or so before my father died. And she said to me, Bridget, I want you to call your dad. And I said, no, I don't have anything to say to him. And I was angry at him, Patricia, because when my son died, my dad didn't reach out to me. And
Oh,
that really broke my heart. I felt like my dad doesn't even care about me, doesn't even care about his grandson. And my mom said, Bridget, you have to put that in the past. She says, I believe your dad is dying. And she said to me, I want you to call your dad. And she said, if it wasn't for COVID, I would want all of you to travel to England to see your father because I really believe that he needs to see you guys again before he dies. But she had that feeling. And she said, he's a sick old man and he is dying. So being angry towards him right now is not doing you any good. It's not doing him any good. And my mom was so, I heard something in my mom's voice where I said, you know what? Let me reach out to my dad. And I'm very thankful that I did because my last words to my dad was, I love you, Dad. I got to say that to him. That set me free. My mom could have been an angry and bitter woman and held on to some of those things, but she chose not to be that way. She wanted us to make peace with him because she wanted him to die in peace.
well,
That said a lot to me about my mom.
I think we're where you mentioned that you got to speak to your father. I never got to speak to my mother before she died. She never spoke to me
Oh,
for 10 years. She didn't
really?
know who I was. She knew my children, she knew my siblings. She just didn't know just me in the family. And
Wow.
it's it's highlighted some points in the family also where my siblings thought that my mom and father only loved me.
Yes.
And they told me that when mommy couldn't speak and she was ill, a lot of things came out. But it's made me think, okay, because my life was for my siblings. I looked after all of them.
Yes.
I could have gone somewhere else to live, London, but I didn't go because I didn't want to leave my brothers and sisters. I mean, who does that?
Yes.
I didn't go. So when I look back on my life, I don't really choose to be bitter because some of the decisions I made,
Yes.
I made them and I lived by them. But it's only when you're getting older, certain things come out, and there's not much you can do about it, you know.
It's true.
Because your siblings will tell you what's on their minds and they won't discuss it because it's the past, but yet still they bring it up. So every day I choose to live my life. You see, as long as the sun comes up, I'm good
Yes.
because I have another day to do something. I don't think about what's happened. It's happened. I lived through it. Now I can move on to the next phase of my life, which is being getting older and wiser and doing exactly as I please. I make
Yes.
my
You've
jewelry
earned
and I
it.
wear it in the daytime. I make my clothes and I wear them in the daytime. I do exactly as I please.
You've
And
earned that right.
I'm saying that with love because there will come a day where people don't remember. You could take sick and you don't remember.
It's true.
Dementia, Alzheimer's, you don't remember.
It's true. That's something that unfortunately runs in my mom's family, and it's a very sad thing to witness, when your loved one is there, but they're technically not there. Not there,
Well, the word it says dementia. So that
Mhm.
means what's happening in your brain has happened over a series of time. Does it mean that we haven't dealt with those things? We
Yeah.
didn't talk about those things, and your brain is trying to black it out, or it puts it in a drawer and it takes out the problem again and it puts it back. And the heart might say, what you taking that out for? I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to deal with it. To me, dementia is like a heart and brain problem. One wants to talk about this thing and the other one
Yeah,
said,
I agree with you.
and over the
I
years,
definitely agree.
who don't talk about problems than a Caribbean woman?
It's true.
They keep it in their hearts. It doesn't matter what happens, as long as the family is together, they keep the problems together, and they don't talk about it until one day when they have to talk about it, it's a bit late.
It's true, and unfortunately, it's a cycle because it's passed on from one generation to the next. And I think it sometimes there are conversations that may be unpleasant, but I think they're necessary. I think if people were more honest and forthright in how they truly feel, I think that families would be more connected. And I think that it's necessary. Like, I've been through therapy, and I'm glad that I went through that process because it helped me a great deal. And it helped me to let go of a lot of things because I'm telling you, hurt feelings will bring out the worst in us. We can be amongst our loved ones and not even acknowledge them, not speak to them, and that's not the way it should be.
No, but if you're hurt, you're hurt. You as an individual have to know, where do you draw the line to be hurting anymore?
It's true.
Where do you draw that line? If you don't speak to somebody in your family, okay, you don't speak to them, but you know that person will want to speak to you. They have a
Mhm.
look on their face. Oh, look at you now. They're remembering something about you. If you don't want to talk to them, don't go where they are. It's simple.
Yeah.
But then it's another thing. I'm not going over there because Jane will be there. And I don't want to speak to Jane. So it's a continuous cycle. You are right
It
about that.
it's a continuous thing, and I have to let you know that Annette was saying, good point, Patricia, about the point you made about dementia. And I have to say that I learned a lot of lessons when my father died, because I had to learn about
Mm,
forgiveness and letting go of the past. And
mm,
I learned to treasure the memories. I find myself
mm,
reflecting a lot on when we were growing up and the things, the good experiences. Some of the bad things, I have tried to block them out, but there are times I have
yes,
to go on that
yes, you have to
journey
deal with them.
to face it and ask myself, why do I still hold on to this? And it's helping me
Well,
to.
no, it's helping you to.
I didn't hear you,
Sorry, I cut
Patricia.
you off.
No,
What
I
did
was
you say?
saying it's learning to let go, because I think we like, there's that expression in Jamaica when they say you have somebody up, and it's like, I think if we could learn to release, to let go, to truly forgive. And I have struggled with that in the past, but I have learned, when you forgive someone, you're really doing it for you. You're setting yourself free. When we hold on to grudges, it's like we're really poisoning ourselves. And I think that's where the demise of families have taken place, because we're not communicating our true feelings.
Oh, we're not
We're not
forgiving.
acknowledging. I just think, like I said, why were families so much tighter back in the day compared to now?
Because there was a need to be tight. There was a
Yes,
reason. We've got different reasons now for family to be tight. Family don't have to be tight now.
it's true,
And
unfortunately.
if you have half siblings, say some in Jamaica and some family dies in Jamaica and leaves a house, you can hardly leave Britain and go over there to say, well, I've come to see what documents mommy left, because they're going to
Yeah,
tell you,
it's
she didn't
true.
leave any documents for you,
It's
I
it's 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 true. It's
said.
so true. Happy Mother's Day to you, Diane. Yeah, I'm telling you, it is it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, Patricia,
Mm,
it's connection. Connection is extremely important. Like I
mm,
said, I've had a connection to you from the days of childhood. That has not gone away. Didn't see you for donkey years. Saw you again, and it was like no time had passed.
mhm,
I think true connection makes all the difference. I think we need to encourage the conversations, the necessary conversations. And sometimes we have to agree to disagree, because we're not always going to have a meeting of the minds. But
no,
you know, I would I would want to know that with my nieces, nephews, younger cousins, friends, that I would be an aunt gratis to them,
yes,
that I would be like your mom, like my mom, my grandmother,
mm,
people of. I wouldn't want someone to stop and think of me like how I think back to Miss Nellie, my grandmother. You know, I do feel bad for how I felt back then, but I was a
you
child.
can talk about it. You can refer back to how you felt then.
Yes,
If you
yes,
didn't talk about it online, then
yes.
it would be eating away.
Mm-hmm.
You've released it.
Yes,
That word letting go, I find it very difficult to understand that word,
yes,
letting go. I don't understand the sentence, move on. It's a
yes,
new thing. We never
yes, it's
used to
true.
use it.
We didn't use that before.
No,
Yes,
we didn't. So I say to myself, which foot do I put first to move on? How
yes,
do I let go? because you
Yes.
all have to speak to somebody about letting go. Counseling is another good way. You
Yes.
sit and you talk to a stranger, and the stranger reflects back to you, and you walk away thinking, oh, so that's what this meant. When
Yes.
this person said this to me, this is what they meant. Some people say things to us and they don't even know what they've said. They didn't mean it.
It's true.
And some people say things to hurt you. They're sarcastic about you because they don't like the way that you flex.
It's true.
And because you don't flex with them or you haven't got a bad mind like them, they don't like you.
It's
But
true.
what I say, if somebody don't like you, don't force them to like you.
No, then that's you know what? If it has to be forced, that I don't believe in forcing connection or relationships. It's like, nah, let it flow naturally. Let it be what it is. You
It's
know?
wasted
Yeah.
energy. And you could be doing something else with the energy. There's too
So
much things
true.
on this earth to do. And if someone is hurting, what I found, lockdown. And
Yes.
there's one thing I like Boris Johnson for. He made me spend time with myself alone in my house, dancing to Afro beats. I
Yeah.
can dance to African music like I was born there.
Yeah.
So I like him for that. My brother gave me a bicycle and I rode it up the valley every day. And let me tell you, I think the birds knew when I was coming because
Yes.
before I went in the lane of the valley, they weren't tweeting. I fell off my bicycle about 3 times before I reached the end of the lane. The next day I went back and they all tweeted. And I knew they were saying, watch her now. She come back. She come back. Is the same girl with that perfume on? Is she, she right down yesterday. And every day after that, I had a greeting from the birds. The swans, the ducks. One swan got out of the water and came right up to me and looked in my face, and I thought, I can't move. Can't move. Why did he come out of the water? And they looked sideways. And he turned his eye and looked at me, and I thought, oh, them checking me out. So I said to this bird, I moved back and I said, I'm very tired. I hope you don't mind me sitting in your space. I'll move in a bit. And then they went back in the water. But they'd always come out
Wow.
to say hello. So I would carry bread to feed them. And that's how I got rid of a lot of my problems, decisions I had to make, whether I was going to continue to be a school teacher, whether I going back into school. I made all those decisions. And then I learned to say the word no. I said the
Yes.
word no to my doctor. I said the word no to my job center. Anybody that spoke to me, I would say to them, I don't think I want to do that. I'm sorry.
Yes.
And if anyone said to me, what do you think of this, Pat? I'd say, no, I don't want to do that.
Yes.
Why? No, 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 you don't know me. I've been through that and I'm not going back through it again. So
Yes.
if I don't want to work, you can't tell me to work. I remember one time I said to one of the job center ladies, I want to enjoy myself like a Caucasian lady.
Wow.
And she said, "Well, what did you say?" So I went down into
I'm
the
about to
history.
plug my computer and just keep on talking, Pat.
So I went down into the history of what it is to lay back in your country and
Yes.
receive things. You see, I've worked for everything I have. And me
Yes.
and that lady became very good friends. She said, you should do some talking to people that don't know which way they're going. And I said, well, I don't know which way I'm going. So, that I thank God that there are people out there, especially since lockdown. There
Yes.
are certain people that have more understanding of how people need to be treated.
Yes.
Like in Britain now, we say, have a nice day. You wouldn't get a British people say, a person say that before. They didn't know what a nice day was. And how are you today? Is there anything else I can do for you? And I used to remind people, year before last, you never used to say that. What do you think you can do for me then? And I realized that my attitude was too strong. I
Yeah.
needed to pull back a bit.
Yes.
Um, I need to take the reins of my own life. And that is what I do.
That is so important. So important. Pat, I've enjoyed this conversation with you
Yeah.
so much, and I'm asking you to come back when
Yeah.
you're available because I'd like you to discuss your singing career. You said you'd bless us with
Mhm.
a song today, so I
Oh,
would like you to please. We'll end
all
this
right.
episode with your song.
Well, I'll dedicate this song to all that we have lost, all the people that have lost somebody and we're still hurting. We don't know the reason why, but we soon will as time goes on. And it's a Jim Reeves song, Across the Bridge. I changed it up a little. Um, I think I'll sing it in the soul version rather than the version.
Yes.
Oh, my battery is going to go. Let me see now. I lived a life of sin in this world that I'm living in. And I done forbidden things that I should not do.
I wonder if Pat's battery ran out. Pat? Oh, I would like to say to the viewers, I am so sorry. We had technical issues from the very beginning. It took Pat about an hour to log in. That's why we started late. But what I will do is I'll see if I can get Pat back on later just to sing her song for you. But I would like to thank everyone that joined us today. And I would just like everyone to stop and think about the blessing of motherhood. Motherhood is truly a gift. And I tell you, it's a day I've struggled with since the loss of my son. But what I've chosen to do today is celebrate Mother's Day with my friends. And that's why it was important for me to do this podcast today. And I would just like to encourage everyone to, if your mom is still around, be grateful, treasure it, and, nurture that relationship. If your mom is no longer here, treasure the memories. If your child is no longer here, treasure the memories. But let's all be thankful to God for the gift of motherhood, for all of those who have played the role of a mother in our lives, for all of those who have, you know, you don't have to give birth to be a mother. And I would like to encourage everyone, words of kindness, words of love, they go a long way. I am very thankful for my mom. And I tell you, I am blessed. So I can say, even with my son no longer being here, I am truly thankful for this day and for the gift of Mother's Day. So I would like to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day. To all the moms out there, enjoy your special day. And thank you so much for joining Pat and I. And I will have Pat back on so she can share that song hopefully later on today. Take care, everyone, and wishing you a blessed day.